What's going on, fellow A-plussers? It's your boy Adam Perez back once again with a brand new video for you guys today. Wanted to do something new as we wrap up 2024 for you guys. If you recall, at the end of last year, 2023, we sat down and did our top 5 most anticipated movies for 2024. With 2024 wrapping up, it's time to do a little bit of a rewind and look back at some of the films that we had and rank them ourselves from number 1 to 5 as to what we liked the most and what we like the least out of some of our top 5 and honorable mention movies. So it's not just myself here today, but it is in fact good old Stuart Branscombe joining us once again, as always, our co-host from A Plus Here Report on the weekends. Man, we picked a ton of movies last year. If anything, we'll probably do a top 5 most anticipated for 2025 as we wrap up the year as well. I had a lot of fun doing this with you guys last year. But now that it's been 12 months, it's kind of fun to be able to kind of look back, look at all the films that we've watched, especially the ones that we had in our top 5, and see, were we as impressed with them as we certainly hope that we definitely would be. So this is going to be a little bit of a mixture of some of our top 5 along with our honorable mentions. And we're going to go ahead and rank them for you guys. So should we go forward or backwards, Stuart? Which way would you rather go?
I think start at like our
Our fifth
fifth,
one?
yeah, number five, and then go
Okay.
up.
All right, sounds good. Let's go ahead and start off at our number 5. Stuart, you want to go ahead and kick us off, man? Let us know what movie made your top 5 out of your previous top 5 and honorable mentions.
Sure. So number five for me was Joker 2. Now, I can't remember if we talked about this movie on A Plus Hero Report, but we might have. But my thoughts are pretty much that I thought it was really well directed. The acting was very good. And I mean, and when I say some, I mean very, very few of the musical bits were very entertaining, in the sense of I think the way it was utilized actually worked really cool for the story. Like, I think there were some examples I'd like, such as the first time he sings, the time he sings live, like on camera, and the time when it's him and Harley Quinn escaping. But the problem is, then there's like 14 other times that they sing in the movie, and it just, doesn't feel like it was necessary. And then also, just, I didn't think the story was good. I thought it was just so generic. And I know that the whole thing was just meant to be like a subversion of expectations. And sometimes I like that. In this particular case, though, I did not, especially with kind of the reveal of, oh, we've never been watching the Joker the entire time. It's, Joker 1 and 2, it wasn't about the Joker. It was about this guy inspiring the Joker. And I thought that was just such a lame twist, whether or not that's what Todd Phillips wanted me to feel. I guess it just doesn't matter. I wasn't entertained as much as I wanted to be. So yeah, I didn't like it.
Stuart, I definitely don't blame you there, because you know what? Out of my top 5, for me, my 5th one is also Joker Fale Adu as well. I definitely echo a lot of your sentiments. Really great directing, cinematography on point. I really had a lot of fun with the musical pieces in there as well. Incredible acting both by Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix. I really enjoyed seeing them both on screen. And I really liked the role also, that Harley kind of played in the life of Arthur a little bit, kind of having that fangirl moment that had like these expectations of what she certainly wanted him to be, and he just unfortunately didn't live up to it. There is something about this movie though that does land a little bit flat for me. You know why? It is one of those films where, yes, I understand Todd Phillips wanted to push the notion more of, once again, this is sort of like a mental illness awareness type of movie. But my thing is, if you want people to subvert expectations for what the movie is, just don't make a sequel. Like, it, to me, it just felt like the story felt a little bit flat for me. I get the purpose. I felt like I could have had that same purpose that I took away from the first movie, and I felt like I didn't necessarily need them to recycle it a little bit. I loved what I took away from the first one, and if the purpose was to subvert our expectations at that point, then it's just like, why did you make a sequel? I mean, I know why they made the sequel. It's simply because of the fact that their movie made $1 billion, and they were hoping that this would certainly be another sort of cash grab in that regards. But to me, I felt like the story of the Joker was told in the first one I don't know what my level of expectation was, but I was kind of hoping maybe the story would be a little bit more compelling than what it certainly was. I had some fun with it. I had my fun moments. I kind of dig the concept of, well, he wasn't necessarily the Joker that he eventually goes on to clearly inspire of movement of maybe somebody that will eventually become the Joker, or really causing mayhem within Gotham. But it just felt a little bit flat to me. And Yeah, it just really made me question the idea of, is this a movie that I really needed? I really would have preferred them to have stuck with just the first one. So that makes my top five also. That's my number five as well. So it's funny we got the same ranking there.
Indeed, indeed.
What do you have in your fourth position?
Oh, I actually only had 4 movies on my top 5. It's just that I was so disappointed from by the Joker, I didn't think it deserved the number 4 spot.
Oh God! So he's got just a complete blank on the fourth spot. Okay, that's fine. You know what? I will fill in the airtime here for our fourth one. And look, this is actually was, I think, my most anticipated movie, if I'm not mistaken, of 2024, and that was The Fall Guy. Now I'm drawing blanks on it. Who's in this movie, Stuart?
Ryan Gosling, right?
Yeah, and Emily Blunt. That's right. Let me tell you something. The on-screen chemistry is fantastic in this movie. It truly is. It's one of those things where it's just like, if they're not a Hollywood couple, I want them to be a Hollywood couple. Like, they are just so perfect with each other. I enjoyed the writing. I thought it was certainly fun. It definitely had its moments. I thought Winston Duke in here too was pretty fun. Aaron Taylor Johnson. It was just a movie that I thought brought really great levity, and I thought just had a really solid, enjoyable story. I walked away really having a great smile on my face. I really enjoyed the stunt performances in here for sure. Like, it's one of those, the issue that I had with Fall Guy though was the fact that the big action sequences felt a little bit too planned out for me. It almost felt like the story itself was aimed at just getting us to the next big stunt. And it felt a little bit telegraphed at times, a little bit too forced. But the stunts themselves were actually pretty cool. Like, when you watch The Fall Guy, you can clearly tell it's in appreciation of stuntmen. But I also felt that at the same time, it sacrifices being able to be an even more compelling and really great story than just being a movie about stunts. But if that's what they were going for, they certainly made a good film. I laughed. I enjoyed it for certainly what it was. But it comes in at my top four. You said you hadn't got the opportunity to check it out, The Fall Guy, yet, right?
I did not, even though I believe it was number 2 on my list. I actually didn't have a chance to see that in theaters, and I do kind of regret it. I know that like the overall like reviews weren't like mind blowing, but I didn't see any of them saying it was a bad movie, and it definitely
Yeah.
looked really entertaining.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was a bad movie at all. I mean, I definitely had my fun with it. It was definitely a popcorn flick. It's definitely one that I would have asked people to go ahead see in theaters. I don't think it's necessary, but just seeing the grandiose of some of the big stunts, and again, the chemistry and story for Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling's character, I think really worked for me. So yeah, I had a fun time with it. What is your number three, Stuart?
All right. My number 3 is no surprise here, Deadpool and Wolverine, which was actually number 5 in my top 5 most anticipated movies of 2024. I love the chemistry between Deadpool and Wolverine. And just I would say that it's probably my least favorite Deadpool movie, but that's not a bad thing because as a movie itself, it's still a lot of fun. And I think that the way they kind of celebrate the Fox universe while also poking a couple of jabs at it, I thought that was incredible because they could have easily had the Fox movies be like the butt end of the joke and be like, oh, haha, we're owned by Disney now, which means we're so much better than Fox. But I like how they don't. I like how a lot of the jokes, while they do kind of poke fun at the Fox universe, they definitely also celebrate it as well, especially with what they play like during the end credit sequence. I absolutely love that whole moment. And then yeah, every joke just lands so well. Even the ones that aren't like the funniest laugh out loud jokes, there's still plenty that'll at least like make me chuckle. I can't think of any moment where like a joke was so bad that I cringe like I do like at, at least I feel like most Marvel movies have at least like one joke that'll make me cringe instead of laugh, but there weren't any like that in this movie. Like they were all like, either okay or funny or just extremely laugh out loud. And then yeah, I got the Easter eggs, man. The Easter eggs were great. They didn't like distract from the story. They just felt very natural. And I think having it take place in the void is what really helped with that. Because it kind of gave the writers an excuse to just like play with that whatever toys they wanted to. And I think the way those toys were utilized in the plot worked. Specifically referring to the cameos that we got at the very end. I freaking loved every single one of them, and it felt like a perfect way to kind of like represent every era of like kind of the Fox like kind of Marvel side of film history. Yeah, great movie. Majorly recommended to anyone who liked the first two.
Would you say Deadpool and Wolverine saved the MCU?
I don't, because I'm not like on the assumption that the MCU needs saving. Like, yes, the movies aren't making as much money as they did, and nor are they receiving the best reviews. But it's not like going downhill a little bit is a bad thing. It gives them a chance to kind of learn from their mistakes and improve. So I wouldn't say this saved the MCU, but I would say it definitely helped them kind of learn and figure out what it is that people really want to see in more of the upcoming like MCU movies, I guess you could say. So save is a strong word. Helped, yes.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great word. I mean, look, the movie itself made 1.3 billion dollars, so I think if it saved MCU in any way, it was certainly financially, and definitely got some enthusiasm certainly back. But yeah, I don't know if I think saved is a kind of a strong word. And I just roll into it because also Stuart, Deadpool is my number three. Deadpool and Wolverine is my number three film coming in. Um, Look, I'm glad that you gushed about the positives because I share a lot of those positives. I think for me, one of the things that I really enjoyed, the chemistry was off the charts, but I also really enjoyed the storyline. That they, the idea of them really both losing something and really trying to change things around and actually save something for a change. I really love the motivations that Deadpool gave to Wolverine. I thought Hugh Jackman had an incredible performance, and Wolverine's storyline really hit home here for me. So I thought the motivations and the purpose for both of those characters were really strong in this movie. And they had, for all the great jokes that certainly hit, they had some really great sentimental moments, whether that be together or just sort of individually. And regardless of Ryan Reynolds' jokes, during some of the emotional moments, like it still really worked for me. Great cameos. I will say this though, there are moments where the film at times for me feels a little bit like empty calories. And I think maybe it's just simply because of the fact that, I saw this movie like a week and a half late or like a week late. And so, as much as I tried to avoid being spoiled or anything like that, a lot of the Easter eggs and the excitement of the big reveals was kind of taken away from me. And so, when I went into the movie, I did feel a little bit not as as excited or surprised as I think had I watched it fresh in theaters. I think this movie probably would have hit me a little bit more impactful. Like I see people walk away saying this is the best MCU movie I've seen. Look, we live in a reactionary world for sure, where it's just like the new coolest thing is like the best thing, and I walked out thinking to myself like enjoyable movie. I had a fun time with it, but I almost didn't have any urge to see it again. I may watch it again, honestly, but I think in part it has to do with me seeing it late, me being spoiled by a lot of the cameos. Didn't work out for me. I honestly thought towards the end when Deadpool and Wolverine were facing off against all those Deadpools, that felt like it was an attempt to maybe stretch out the movie a little bit longer. I don't know if I necessarily needed that scene. I think that's what I'm talking about sometimes when I say empty calories. But outside of that, again, I think for me, the story is impactful enough. I even really enjoyed the villain in here, Cassandra. I think it's Cassandra Nova, if I'm not mistaken. Can't remember her name, but I thought she was pretty menacing for the time that we saw her in here. Channing Tatum as Gambit really impressed me, really made me laugh. I loved his accent he tried to go for. I don't know if I need a Gambit solo film, but I wouldn't mind the opportunity to see him again as that character. Seeing again and again, seeing Blake. I think the one that did surprise me was Jennifer Gardner as Elektra. That I don't think that one certainly surprised me. I I believe I knew Chris Evans was going to be in this movie. Great end credit scene too, where you see the behind the scenes footage of the Human Torch talking smack about Cassandra, and it definitely made me laugh. Like, oh, Deadpool wasn't lying at all. So the humor was definitely spot on. Really enjoyed the storyline itself, especially the return of X-23 Laura. I thought she really had some great sentimental moments also. But yeah, it felt a little flat for me in the fact of empty calories. But again, I think I was spoiled a little bit too much, man. So it took a little wind out of my sails for fully enjoying it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely like a couple of fight scenes that felt like they were just I don't know, like they were fun, but they did go on just a tiny bit too much at times. But that's yeah. Besides that, that's also just a huge nitpick actually. But yeah, I just enjoyed it.
Yeah, I had a good time with it though. I mean, don't mistake. I mean, you gushed about it, so I was
Oh
like, well,
yeah.
maybe I'll take my time and talk about some of the things that didn't really work for me so much. But it landed on my number three, so I certainly enjoyed it for what it was. Stuart, what is your number two?
My number 2, let me check what, I believe this was like my number, it was my number 3 most anticipated movie of the year, and it made number 2 on my list, and that is Furiosa.
Nice.
Absolutely loved this movie. From, like, the really creative action to, the really awesome, performance that we get from, Anya Taylor-Joy. Like, I thought that oh, man, who was it that played her in the previous Mad Max Fury Road? It was,
Charlize Theron.
yeah, that's right, Charlize Theron, and she was incredible in that role. But like for kind of a younger version of her, I think Anya Taylor Joy fit it like just so perfectly. You know, what I also love is just how incredibly well written it was in terms of fitting into the continuity of everything we know from Mad Max Fury Road. Because what I had done right after seeing this movie is I had rewatched Mad Max Fury Road at home, like right after seeing it in theaters, and it almost felt like this movie had been planned out the entire time when George Miller wrote Mad Max Fury Road. That's not the case, obviously, but it's written so well that it basically feels like it flows into that movie just like amazing, like just so perfectly. And yeah, I also think that there were just some subtle things that they did a really good job of setting up with her character in areas that really pay off in Mad Max Fury Road, such as her relationship with this character. I can't remember his name, but he was introduced in this movie. But he very much felt like a Mad Max type of character. And it was kind of like her friendship with him that kind of made her like trust towards Max when we see her in the movie with him, because she seems to trust him like not like instantly and not like she ever takes her guard down, but she does kind of figure out really soon like yeah, this guy is pretty sane, he's someone I know I can that as long as our interests are aligned we can work together kind of a thing. And you kind of see where that mindset comes from in this movie when she's working with this guy who's again very similar in a lot of ways to everything we know about Max as a character. So yeah, just again flows together with the movie so perfectly. And then just as a standalone film, it's also incredible. And then I also got to give a shout out to Chris Hemsworth because as a villain, he was so entertaining the entire time. I just oh my gosh, I loved his accent that he had. I don't think it's his natural accent. I think he just really added like emphasis to it or something. But man, it made for just a hilarious, just a character that you obviously don't root for, but you actually in fact kind of enjoy his downfall at the end, but you're still entertained every time he's on screen, regardless.
Yeah, you know what, man? I'm really glad that we had a chance to have Furiosa on this list. Looking back at my list, even my honorable mentions, I'm really disappointed in myself that I didn't put Furiosa on my list. Because if I could be honest with you, it probably would have been my number one. I feel like I enjoyed Furiosa a lot more than I did any of the other movies that I watched on my list, honestly. But I definitely agree with you. I personally think it would be a shame if Chris Hemsworth is not nominated for a Best Supporting Actor in the Oscars this year, because I think he did just that incredible of a job. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with Furiosa also.
Yeah. I will say my one nitpick is, while I understand why they didn't, because you definitely couldn't have pulled off a lot of the incredible action scenes that you got in this movie with practical effects. I do kind of see where people are coming from when they say, "Oh yeah, they're using a lot more CG than they used in Fury Road," which is true. But I also understand why, because again, some of these stunts you could not have possibly have done with like props. So I get it.
Yeah, I totally agree. For me, my number two, I believe was actually my number three on the list, if I'm not mistaken, and that's going to be Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I had a really good time with this film, man. I'm a sucker for lore and world building, and the fact that this is a continuation of the world that we had from the previous Planet of the Apes trilogy really worked for me. There was something very ominous about Caesar's presence in this film, and really get an opportunity to see, with so much time passed, what knowledge is kind of brought down over generations, how knowledge and history is shaped in order to help those in power sort of hold on to power and have like a narrative that they sort of run with, if you will. Sometimes the lack of knowledge that kind of gets passed down, and you see how how things really start to change for the apes. The idea of what the human civilization is certainly now like, the idea of realizing that, there are certainly still some humans out there that are trying to fight back, as minimal as they certainly are at this particular point in time. Incredible special effects. I think it just build upon what we wind up getting from Planet of the Apes, and I really enjoyed the cast in here. I thought they had some really great characters. Owen Teague as Noah really worked for me in regards to like the bright-eyed kid that wanted to have more in his life, if you will, and learning along the way from for some great supporting apes also. And Kevin Durand in here, who did the voice work for Proximus Caesar, was super compelling to me, man. I mean, he just had a presence every time he's on the screen. His voice really comes through. I don't know how Kevin Durand sort of found the voice that he did, but he really made Proximus Caesar quite the impressive character, certainly on screen. And it is one of those things where, I do love how the ending of this movie allows you to realize that there's certainly more to come. I thought it did a really great job of setting up the future and really the clash of humans versus apes, in the concept of who can you trust, sort of thing, right? And sort of seeing the humans kind of show their, I don't want to say show their worth again, but show like why they shouldn't necessarily be trusted in that regards. But you also understand the idea, like both of these factions certainly want to hold on to power or certainly regain power, if you will. And I think that just makes for a really great dynamic kind of going forward in regards to a trilogy. So I walked away from this. I thought they handled the concept of history really well with what came before, and had some really compelling characters kind of carry this movie. So I really enjoyed Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Have you had the opportunity to see it?
Oh yeah, I did. I unfortunately I didn't see it in theaters and I kind of regret that because after seeing it like just on my TV, I'm like, wow, this would have looked incredible on the big screen. But yeah, no, I yeah, agree with everything that you pretty much said. Like I thought that, the voice work was absolutely incredible from all the characters, and to be able to use this much CG but still make the world that we're in like feel like it's a real place. Absolutely incredible building. I 100% agree with you on there. Like I think the time jump that we had was kind of the perfect amount because you got to see like what happens like post this big war that really like kind of changed the world. And I do like how you have conflicting interpretations amongst everyone on what it was that Caesar's word really stood for. And it's a perfect metaphor, for just
Yeah.
kind of like the way we today look at not just history, but even like religion and all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
Yeah. I
great
think
movie.
Yeah, I think it just really fascinated me in that regards too. If I did have one gripe, while I do feel Caesar's presence in the movie, I do wish Noah himself had more time to really sit down and learn his teachings. It felt a little bit, I don't want to say premature, that Noah kind of grasped onto the teachings of Caesar by the end of the film, but I do think that he probably has more for himself to definitely have to learn. So I would have loved to have seen him sit with more of learning about Caesar than what he did in this film, but I definitely felt it in this movie for sure. So it comes in at my number two. But Stuart, number one for you, man. What made out of our top five and your honorable mentions? What comes in at number one?
All right. So this was, I'm actually surprised I put this very low on my list because of how much I really liked the first movie. But this ends up being number one on my list, and that is Dune 2. Now, man, it was almost a coin flip between this and Furiosa because I love these movies both so much. But I think Dune 2 I put on top just because I don't know. I think just because I had Dune 1 so fresh in my head, so it was great to have like kind of the conclusion, like just only a couple years after the first movie. But yeah, I just performances outstanding all around, and I think just the overall. I like kind of with the overall story that we don't necessarily have a hero who's like a true hero per se. He's someone who's like basically gotten this prophecy just like thrown onto him. Someone who he was one day just supposed to be kind of like the son of you know just like the Duke, right? Like his dad's a Duke, I believe. Sorry, I'm forgetting like the terminology that they use in the movie, but you know what I mean. He gets thrown into the planet, which again was something that like his house wasn't even supposed to own. But then the of course emperor just like throws that onto him, and then it's like in that same whole period where he finds out that he wasn't even supposed to be born, all this stuff. So he just has this whole weight of everything being thrown onto him, and then now suddenly being told he's the chosen one, and now being expected to basically lead a whole like group of people to freedom and all that. It's just great that we get to see a character like that who struggles all the way through a very King Arthur type of story, but even towards the end is still whether or not he lives up to it. He definitely makes the choices that you wouldn't normally expect a hero to make by the end, and it's just because he's like forced into this no win situation with the whole like weight of all this responsibility on his shoulders. And yeah, it just makes for a very very interesting story. And I haven't checked out the show yet, but I do really want to because I really look forward to seeing how they really expand this world going forward, since I haven't actually read any of the books. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I believe when it comes to Doom Prophecy, I might want to check it out. I probably will listen to Will and Sarah's Scene and Nerd podcast because they've been reviewing the show. I heard some lackluster reviews for the first episode, so it kind of like brought me down a little bit. But I may just check it out for myself personally. But I do feel like I almost got to give my movie buff card back, man, because considering the fact I still have not watched these damn Dune movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, man. Me and the girlfriend are struggling to get through the first one. Not because it's bad. It's just something always comes up for us. So yeah, I need to rewatch those. But I'm glad you enjoyed Dune 2 as much as you did. Are you looking forward to Messiah?
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see here for my number one. Believe it or not, this actually wasn't even in my top five. This was actually in my honorable mention segment, but it was so good I had to plug it and put in here in my number one. Alien Romulus. Um,
Shit, I forgot about that movie.
I had a blast with what Fede Alvarez was certainly able to do with Alien Romulus, to the point to where afterwards me and the girlfriend literally did a binge of Aliens and Alien 3 afterwards in order to just continue along with the story. Granted, Alien Romulus doesn't necessarily connect directly into Alien 2 and 3, but I think it just injected us once again with like just curiosity and love for this franchise and wanting to really sort of sink our teeth into it. Alien really wasn't a franchise that I was like a huge fan of. But after seeing Alien Romulus, it definitely like drove me to go ahead and watch these movies all over again because it's been years since I've had the opportunity to certainly check it out. But I just really love what Fede Alvarez wind up doing. I thought we had some incredible performances in here. I believe the main actress, what was her name? Kaylee Spaney. I saw her in another movie, Civil War, with Kirsten Dunst, and I did not care for her in that movie at all. Like to the point to where like I really hate your character, girl. Like it really made me not like her whatsoever. But seeing her as Rain in Alien Romulus just truly worked for me. I thought David Johnson that played Andy was incredible in here as the android. I wish we had a little bit more Isabella Mercade in here as well. I wish we had a little, honestly, I wish we had a little bit more of the entire squad because to me, it felt like shit hit the fan really quickly and things just sort of devolved very quickly. But I love the pacing of the movie. Horrific death sequences, certainly were not joking. And the creature towards the end, I didn't know like if I should laugh, if I should cringe, if it was just so horrific. Like I just remember like sitting in the movie theater like, oh my gosh, like who came up with this? It was just the creepiest thing I have ever seen in my life, but it was intense. I mean, the hallway scene when she decides to go back for and like I literally found myself the claustrophobia was there, beautiful cinematography. I mean, he made it feel like I was back in the world of original Alien, tapping into that particular sort of technology, allowing me to feel tense on the edge of my seat in moments. And that's really what I really wanted to ask for from Alien Romulus. And so I thought Fede Alvarez did a really good job. I don't want not a super complicated story, pretty simple story and straightforward, but I love seeing also the connections at least to the end of the first Alien and how it connected into this film in some capacity or another. I thought that was really smart and and hooked me immediately to feel like okay, this movie is certainly worth watching because it's part of the continuity. And I don't think that they disappointed at all. In fact, I'm really looking forward to an Alien Romulus sequel that they seemingly have at least opened up for a possibility if that's the route that they certainly wanted to go. But yeah, man, I had a lot of fun with Alien Romulus, and that winds up making my top my top movie out of all the films that we certainly had anticipated for this year for sure.
I think if I had that on my top 5 movies that I was looking forward to, that definitely would have probably been yeah, I think that would have been my number 1, like, right above Dune, because I yeah, agree with everything you said. I thought, like, a lot of the characters, were awesome, and the ones that you didn't like, I think it was done on purpose most of the for the most part, like, because you had your perfect mix of, the one that you're meant to hate, the one who's, kind of bland, is gonna die, you're just not sure when, the really cool one that you don't want to die, but, like, does before you really get to know them, and then, of course, kind of, the generic hero one that you also know is going to die, and the main character, and, of course, I gotta say, my favorite performance, of course, also had to go to Andy the robot. Sorry, what was
Yeah.
the actor's name again?
Something David Johnson. David
David
Johnson.
Johnson. Yeah, I think he gave my favorite performance in that
Yeah.
movie. Okay, I do have one complaint though about this movie, and that is that I wasn't a fan of the really bad looking deep fake that they used when they
Oh,
brought back.
yes.
Yeah, when they brought back the android from the first movie. Like, I like
Yes.
that
It was
they did
brutal.
that,
Yeah.
but why didn't they just go with puppetry?
Yeah.
Because it would have actually helped it feel more like an android, more like his character from the first one. Because we saw him as a puppet in times during the first movie. He
Yeah.
both like, they used both the effect where he's like kind of popping his back through the table so it looks like he's
Mm.
half a torso, but then they also for some shots used a puppet. So it's like you could have totally have done that and made it look even better by today's standards. So why didn't they do that?
Yeah, I that is definitely one of my biggest complaints of the movie. I don't want to say it took me out of the movie, but it did make me question, like, oh, like that's the route that they wanted to go. Like they could have cleaned that up a little bit more. Maybe it was because it was made on a low budget, but still, they probably could have went a completely different direction. So I agree with you there. But it's so funny. You would have picked my number one as your number one. I probably would have picked your Furiosa as my as my number one. But neither of us had both of those films on each other's list. So it's pretty funny it worked out that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, that is in fact sort of our ranking of our most anticipated films from 2024. What's going to make our top five for next year? We'll probably be dropping that video for you guys here in the next couple of weeks, either for Christmas or New Year's, for you guys to certainly have something to enjoy as well. But look, we want to know your thoughts out of all the films that we've named. Do you want to rank yours out of the films that we talked about? We definitely would love to know your top five out of what you saw possibly this year as well. But that will do it for us, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll certainly see you later on this weekend for another episode of A Plus Hero Report. But until then, do us a big favor, as always, guys. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A plus. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.